So if you're deep into real estate, you definitely know this feeling. It's a frustration.
Oh, yeah.
You've spent months, maybe a year, on a value-add strategy. The property's value is shot up.
Yeah.
You finally have good tenants, reliable rent.
Mm-hmm.
But all that equity, all that profit you've built, it's just locked up. It's stuck inside the bricks and mortar. You want it, but you don't want to sell.
That is the classic investor's dilemma, right? How do
Yeah.
you get your capital back to work without liquidating the asset?
Exactly.
And that's precisely why we're doing this deep dive today. We're looking at one of the most powerful, but also, one of the riskiest tools for this, the cash out refinance, the CRR.
Our mission today is, well, pretty simple. We want to give you, the investor listening, a really thorough but fast-paced guide to pulling off a CRR successfully.
Right.
We've gone through a ton of specialized advice for real estate investors, and we're focusing on the mechanics, the absolute must-do calculations, and all the due diligence that goes with it.
Because it's not just about getting a check from the bank. It's about growing your portfolio without, and this is key, without killing the profitability of the asset you already have.
Okay, so before we jump in, let's just lay the groundwork. What exactly is a cash-out refinance?
A CRR is basically a structured way to harvest your equity. You're replacing your current mortgage with a new, larger one.
Okay.
The lender pays off that old loan for you, and the difference, the gap between the old loan and the new, bigger one, that's paid directly to you in cash.
Right, let's unpack that then. The whole strategy, it really hinges on the property's value going up.
Completely.
So where does that value increase officially come from? And maybe more importantly, when is the exact right moment to even approach a lender?
The advice we analyzed is really clear on this. It's a two-part timing thing. First, all your major renovations have to be 100% done. The property has to be worth a lot more than you owe.
That makes sense.
But second, and this is where a lot of people get it wrong, the property has to be stabilized.
Meaning what exactly?
Meaning you have good, reliable tenants in there who are actually paying rent every month. That rent roll is the proof. It proves the property's income potential to the bank. That's what they're lending against.
So it's not just about how nice the new kitchen looks. It's about the quantifiable income.
It is. That appraisal and that stable rent roll, they're almost more important than the cash itself. Because when you strike determines how much cash you can actually access.
Okay, let's make this real. You mentioned the source material had a specific example.
Yeah, let's walk through it.
Let's do it.
Okay, so imagine you started with an original mortgage of, say, $150,000.
$150K. Got it.
Through your renovations, the market improving, whatever. The property now appraises for $300,000.
So double. A huge jump in value.
A huge jump. Now, this is where the strategy comes in. A lender who works with investors will typically give you a new loan based on a loan-to-value, or LTV, usually between 70 and 80%.
And that 70 to 80% range is everything. So if we split the difference,
Right.
say 75% LTV.
Okay, so at 75%, the lender is willing to give you a new loan for $225,000.
Right, which is 75% of the 300K appraisal.
Exactly. So to get your cash out amount, you just subtract your old mortgage, the $150K you still owe, from that new loan of $225K.
Which leaves the investor with a check for $75,000. Liquid cash. That's the equity you just unlocked.
That's it. But let's just pause on that LTV for a second, because this is a huge strategic choice.
How so?
Well, if you pushed for 80% LTV, you'd get more cash, right? $90,000. But your mortgage payment would be higher, maybe even your interest rate, because the lender sees that as more risk.
Okay, so more cash now, but more pain every month.
Potentially. Or you could go conservative. Take only 70% LTV. You get less cash out, but you'll probably get a better rate, and you have a much bigger safety cushion.
So it's not about just grabbing the most cash you can. It's optimizing the new debt you're taking on.
It's a trade-off, absolutely. And of course, before any of this happens, you have to, 1, hire that licensed appraiser, that's non-negotiable, and 2, find a specialized lender who understands investors.
Right, not just your average neighborhood bank.
Probably not, no.
Okay, so we've got the cash, at least on paper. Now, this is where the advice we reviewed got really interesting. It called this next part the missing step.
Yes.
Because everyone gets so focused on that 75 grand, they forget to really stress test whether the new, bigger loan payment is actually sustainable.
This is the cash flow imperative. And honestly, it is the make or break moment of this whole thing.
Why is that?
A mistake here can turn a property that was making you, say, $400 a month into one that's costing you $100 a month or more.
And that completely defeats the purpose.
It negates the entire benefit. The goal is positive cash flow, always. If your new debt kills that, the strategy has failed.
So we need a formula, the exact calculation to check the property's health after the refinance. And it's more than just looking at the new mortgage payment, isn't it?
Oh, much more. The calculation every single investor has to run is this. Cash flow equals your rental income, minus the new mortgage payment, plus all of your operating expenses.
And you have to be ruthless about what counts as an operating expense.
You have to account for everything.
We're talking about the stuff people forget, right? Property taxes, insurance, any management fees.
Maintenance, repairs, and the big one, a vacancy reserve. You have to set aside money for the months it's sitting empty.
Absolutely.
So let's run the numbers from our example. Let's say that property brings in a steady $2,500 a month in rent.
Okay, $2,500 in income.
And based on that new $225K loan, your new mortgage payment is $1,400 a month.
All right, now let's add in those other operating expenses. Let's be prudent and budget, say, $700 a month for all that other stuff.
Okay, so the math is $2,500 in income minus your total outgoings of $2,100. That's the $1,400 mortgage plus the $700 in expenses.
Which leaves a resulting positive cash flow of $400 a month.
That is your proof point.
Mm-hmm.
But let me ask you, is $400 a month really enough of a buffer?
That is a great question because you've just taken on significantly more debt.
Right.
And one big repair, a new water heater or a surprise tax hike,
Right.
that could wipe out months of that $400 profit instantly.
Exactly. So the takeaway for you, the investor, has to be, if this calculation is negative or even just too thin for comfort,
You have to change the plan.
you either reduce the loan amount, maybe drop from 75% LTV down to 70, or you just wait. That
Yeah.
$400 is your safety net. You decide if it's thick enough.
That's the discipline right there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so let's shift from the property to the 75 grand that just landed in your bank account.
A very important pivot, because you have to remember, this is borrowed capital. It's not a lottery win. It came at a cost, and it needs to be used strategically.
This is what I call the luxury truck trap. You see a big number in your account, and you forget that it's actually debt.
It happens.
But the advice we reviewed laid out 4 really smart strategic ways to deploy these funds.
The first one is the classic. It's what everyone thinks of. You use that cash for down payments on more investment properties.
This is how you scale.
This is how you scale. It's how investors use strategies like BRRR buy, rehab rent, refinance, repeat. The cash out becomes the buy for the next deal.
Okay, what's number 2?
The second one is about optimizing your personal finances.
Yeah.
If you, the listener, are carrying high interest debt, think credit cards, a car loan.
Things with like 18, 20% interest.
Exactly. Using this relatively low-interest mortgage cash to wipe out that high-interest debt gives you a massive and immediate financial return.
That makes a ton of sense.
Mm-hmm.
The third use.
Is reinvesting right back into the property you just refinanced. Maybe there are some smaller upgrades, better landscaping, nicer appliances that could let you bump up the rent a little more.
Setting yourself up for the next refinance down the road.
Precisely. And the last one, number 4, is building an emergency fund.
Which speaks directly to managing that new risk we were just talking about.
It does. Using some of that cash to build a 6 or 12-month reserve fund, that's your firewall. It protects you from vacancies or big repair bills without you having to dip into your personal savings.
Okay, so you've used the cash wisely. That leads us right into the next step, which is about monitoring your personal financial gatekeeper, your debt-to-income ratio, your DTI.
A COR, by definition, increases your total debt. And your DTI is the number that banks look at to see if you can handle any more debt in the future.
And it's crucial to remember that DTI looks at all your debt, right? Not just this one property.
Everything. It's your total monthly debt payments divided by your gross monthly income times 100. It is the snapshot of your financial leverage.
So, using the example from the source, if your total monthly debt after this new mortgage is $3,000,
and your gross monthly income is $10,000,
your resulting DTI is 30%.
30%.
So why is that number so critical for an investor, especially if the property is paying for itself with rent?
Because lenders, for almost any kind of new loan, generally want to see a DTI below 36%. A high DTI, even if it's from profitable investments, is a red flag. It tells a new lender that you're getting close to your limit.
So if this cash out pushes your DTI up to, say, 45%, You might not be able to get another loan for a while.
It could seriously limit your ability to grow your portfolio. It's a cap on your growth.
Okay, so let's put all these pieces together. What does this all mean? We've used leverage to pull cash out and hopefully amplify our returns. That's the goal.
hmm
But we've also increased our debt.
Yeah.
So how do we manage that new risk?
That is the essential trade-off, isn't it? Leverage is great in good times, but it amplifies pain when things go bad. You're more vulnerable to a long vacancy, a big expense, or just a general economic downturn.
And the advice we found points to 3 really solid strategies for managing that leverage responsibly. The first is what we already talked about.
Right. Maintaining that guaranteed, healthy, positive cash flow, that is your first line of defense.
The second is setting aside dedicated reserves. And not just as an idea, but as a separate bank account.
It has to be a discipline. You earmark a chunk of that cash out for a reserve fund, and you don't touch it unless it's a true property emergency.
And the third strategy, this one is probably the hardest one emotionally, it's avoiding over-leveraging.
It means leaving money on the table.
Exactly. Don't take out the maximum 80% LTV just because the bank offered it. Only borrow what you actually strictly need for your next strategic goal.
That really summarizes the whole mindset perfectly. It's a cycle. You access cash based on real value. You meticulously calculate your cash flow to stay profitable. You deploy the funds strategically, and you watch your DTI so you can do it all over again.
It's a system for recycling wealth, but it's built on a foundation of really just careful risk management.
It is, and the ultimate goal is crystal clear. A cash-out refinance isn't about the cash. It's about leveraging that cash to fund the next stage of your wealth growth, but doing it without damaging the financial health of the property that got you there.
And that leaves us with a final provocative thought for you to think about. If the core advice is to avoid over-leveraging and only borrow what you strictly need, how should you, as an investor, define needed?
That's a good one.
Should you prioritize immediate financial safety, using the cash to wipe out existing high-interest personal debt? Or should you prioritize future opportunity, pulling out more cash for potential down payments on new deals? When you're looking at that 70 to 80% LTV rule, how does your personal risk tolerance define the perfect sweet spot for you?